Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Rags. I'm a dog. Good to see you. I found a video called Andor, More Woke Star Wars Trash by Von Jog Vlog. No idea who this is. I guess he's a small content creator, but I don't care. I'm willing to hear him out despite his size, be it big or small. I quite like Andor, and I'm curious to see what he has to say. So let's dive right in.
Against my better judgment, I gave Andor a chance.
I think with the first sentence of your video, you've brought into question the quality of your judgment. That's an interesting strategy. Let's see how it plays out.
Now you're thinking, Vaughn, we know what you do. You watch the first episode, you complain about it, you say it sucks, and then you make the video ranting about it.
Hopefully this will never be something that my audience expects from me. I like to think that my review strategy is a bit more robust.
Wrong. This time I watched the first 2 episodes.
Well, you know what they say, crawling is still moving forward.
Then I walked away from this anti-white male propaganda.
Okay, alright, I'm all ears. My brain is like a magnet for knowledge.
Since we're talking about Andor, how about I give a quick mention to my buddies Andor.com, makers of fine leather goods. You can use my promo code FRY20.
Oh, is this one of those? I think I've seen these wallets before. They have like this little switch, this little like button thing at the bottom, and you like pull it or press it, and your cards stick up out of the top. And like that just seems so unappealing to me, right? Like I don't need more. You know what's great about a wallet is that it has no moving parts. It's really simple. It's just generally like leather or faux leather, and it just folds up and you put things in it. And it's nice and simple, and it's wonderful, and it's just so incredibly easy. I don't know if I want things that will break and like mechanisms inside my wallet. Maybe I'm just a grumpy old man, and I'm holding on to the old ways, and I reject the concept of progress. I was curious what these fancy modern wallets cost with their buttons and their switches and doodads. It's $75 for a wallet, which is, you see, I'm so out of touch. I don't even know if that's expensive or not. I guess it is, right? I despise modernity in all of its forms.
Save 20% at checkout. Okay, so we're picking up from, really nowhere. We're doing a gritty Star Wars series. I will give it that credit. This looks more like Blade Runner 2040, whatever number that was.
2049. And yeah, I do agree. It's nice to have a bit of grit in Star Wars. I like that. I don't like when everything's sterile and overly clean and nothing seems real, like everything's on a green screen. I like dirt and dust and wet cement and the little rainbows of oil on a parking lot.
Then it looks like a Star Wars show. In the first 2 episodes I watched, there is nothing here that even says Star Wars. You don't see, oh look, hey, it's a Stormtrooper helmet. Ooh, Easter egg.
I know, it's wonderful, isn't it? There's not a single fucking lightsaber. There's not a Jedi or a Sith. There's not a Stormtrooper helmet anywhere to be seen. It's wonderful because I'm so sick of that stuff. Disney has put me in a position where like the less of those things that I see, the greater the potential for the story to maybe be good or interesting. They've ruined that iconography. But you can tell very clearly that it is a science fiction setting with the speeders and some of the knickknacks and doodads and the robots walking around. Undeniably science fiction. And let's also say one more thing. A Stormtrooper helmet isn't like an Easter egg. Don't equate that to an Easter egg. It's not an Easter egg. That's like saying, oh, I watched this Lord of the Rings show or movie and there were hobbits in it. It's an Easter egg. No, it's not an Easter egg. It's just something that belongs in the world. It's like in the Mario movie when they're on Rainbow Road. That's not an Easter egg. That's a thing in that world that belongs being there. It's not like a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, This'll seem like a bizarre reference that popped into my head first, but in classic World of Warcraft, there's an undead NPC named Algernon, and he has a flower in his hand. I think it's his only hand. And that's his little it's flowers for Algernon. No, look at the thing. That's a little Easter egg. It's like, hey, look at you. Isn't that fun? But yeah, Stormtroopers aren't an Easter egg in a Star Wars production.
This is an offshoot from Rogue One, starring Cassian Andor, a guy I absolutely hate.
I've seen Rogue One a single time, and that was in the theater when it released. And I don't recall having any strong opinions about Cassian Andor as a character from my memory of that movie. Though I will say that after seeing the first season of Andor, I really rather like the character. Certainly seems you feel stronger about him from Rogue One than I do, which is fine, I suppose. A curious thing, though.
Oh, hey, your buddy here's got a limp. Oh, but the Empire, they're coming after you. Well, I guess I better just shoot him, because I'm a douche.
Oh, that's why. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I think you might be on, like, tier 1 level of watching movies. So the reason that Andor shoots the guy is because Andor knows that he's going to get captured by the Empire, right? And so Andor kills him so that the Empire cannot capture the guy, and he gives up information after they like torture him and stuff like that. I think it's really one of the interesting things about the movie, especially coming from Disney, is that in their opening scene, they have one of the primary characters, a good guy working for the rebellion, killing a comrade so that he can't give information to the enemy. I think that's very interesting, and it instantly makes that character more interesting as well. It's not because he's a douche. Like the guys in Operation Anthropoid, they weren't douches, right? They had a very important mission where life and death and the risk of dying was very present. I think it's very reductive for you to call Andor a douche. I think you need to engage with the material on a slightly deeper level than surface.
Taking place 5 years before the Battle of Yavin. That's what I deduced from what this says right here. Casa, as they call him. He's walking to this bar/brothel, and oh, hey, look, there's two white guys who are going to be angry that the Hispanic guy's talking to the white girl.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess I knew what kind of video I was getting into by the title. But you know what? That's fine. I'll break it down really, really quick. This is Dogbytes, man. This is cash rags. We're casual here. So, just to, as is customary, before I make a lot of qualitative statements about a scene, sometimes it's good to rewatch it. So I did. It's on YouTube. You can just pull up the clip and you can watch it. Those two white guys, I guess, you're not wrong, they're white guys. They're upset that after Cassian walks into the bar, one of the girls goes up to Cassian instead of them. They say it's because they've been here longer, and yet they went to him first when he just got here. Andor even tells her that she should go and take care of the white guys first because they work for a company that has a very significant presence in this town. Andor and the lady, we'll call her, they get into a discussion. He's trying to track down his sister from Kenari, and while she's gone, Andor and the two guys from the bar get into a little bit of a light verbal altercation. They clearly don't like each other, and they are somewhat, semi-kind of corrupt cops here. Even the lady talking to Andor says that they're not, like, really cops. They're just, playing at it. It seems they have a reputation.
So they jump him. And what do you know? He kills one of them, and the other guy, he's pleading for his life. He got his hands up, shoots him anyways. This is our hero.
And indeed, after Andor leaves the bar, they walk after him. They tell him to stop. They want to shake him down for stuff, and they want to abuse their authority. As a result, Andor fights back against them. One of them dies accidentally, and then the survivor Andor kills so that the guy can't tell anybody about what happened or what Andor looks like, because Andor knows he's in a lot of trouble if this gets out. And in fact, it's really the inciting incident for the series, and it's a good one too. It's mundane, in a sense, a little scuffle that turns into a double, not really like a homicide, but sort of a killing, a pair of killings that mean Andor has to start packing his things and he has to leave. It's a really great way to start the series. It's more than just... I'm sorry that with all of the craft that went into these scenes at the bar and in the alleyway, not just in the dialogue and the acting, but in the tenseness and the artistic direction. I mean, first off, it's a shame that apparently all you can see is two things, one being the racial component of the people involved. I do feel sorry for you that seems to be your focus. But two, the idea that our hero, which is, the show talks about the gray moral component of fighting a rebellion, especially with Luthen, the character played by Skarsgård. However, it's important to note that the reason Andor kills the survivor here, despite his hands being up, is that it's not about this person's ability to cause him damage now, not physical damage. It's the idea that if Andor leaves him alive, he is going to tell the rest of the police and the security force. He's going to have a description of him. He's going to be able to give his account of the events, and it's going to make it more likely that Andor is caught. And obviously Andor doesn't want that, especially because he was the one who was attacked first, essentially. Being able to not work with moral blacks and whites is not, maybe I shouldn't use those words for you, but the idea of morality being gray and these situations ethically being complicated is one of the reasons that the show is so good. And I think that the way that they explore this concept is really excellent. And it begins with the very first scene. Andor, our protagonist, a person who grows to become a part of the rebellion and do the right thing, he starts off by killing someone who is defenseless so that he can essentially get out safely. Andor makes the pragmatically correct choice. He is willing to get his hands dirty.
Now he heads back to the town he lives in, and look, I am really perplexed by this gloves on the wall bullshit. Why are these workers hanging their gloves on the wall? I mean, they went down somewhere, they're working, and then they come, you know, you got like your lunch pail, all this stuff, and you go and you walk and you pick up your gloves, and then you go home? Like, how does this work?
I'm not really super certain about what the gloves represent, though I have a few ideas. I think that the gloves are meant to represent how blue-collar, I guess not representative, but it shows how blue-collar their jobs are. They perform laborious tasks, very honest and straightforward work. They need gloves to do their jobs. I think it's also supposed to maybe convey that it's a close-knit community and they hang them up and they don't have to worry about people stealing them. Like, that's such a huge no-no in their community that they don't have to worry about it. I think it's probably quite traditional because obviously this isn't the best way to store gloves, so I think it's just tradition that because it's such a big, important thing there on Ferrix that you hang up your gloves, it's a sign of you are working and maybe carrying on a legacy of your family working before you there. And there's 2 empty spots on the glove wall where I think maybe Cassian's father and maybe even Cassian, their gloves might have been. I think someone references how Cassian hasn't been to work in a while and they want him to come back and get some honest work in. But that's just sort of a casual set of thoughts from me. I'm not going to delve too deep into it because honestly the glove wall is really not at all important.
The whole point of having work gloves is to work with them on.
Which would explain why the workers come out of the building, they get their gloves, and then they get on the little tram system, the little speeder that takes them off, I assume, to their work site. So they do work with their gloves on, yes. This scene is from when Andor goes to get his alibis in order. He talks to some friends and people, just in case he gets sussed out for the killings.
And before you give me this, they were picking them up to go take to the mine that they work at. Well, why were they hanging up? Is somebody come by and wash the gloves and hang them outside for the public to steal? Like, what is this crap?
Well, I suppose I mentioned the reasons earlier why the system works like that. I'm not exactly certain how it does myself, but I'm willing to give the show a great deal of good faith and charitability because of how well constructed it is in terms of the writing and the characters and a lot of the symbolism and the things it's trying to convey to the audience. I think in terms of its representation and its symbolism, the gloves hanging up on the wall do a decent enough job of sort of giving a decent working class, honest labor kind of vibe for the people of Ferrix. And look, it's just some gloves on the wall. It's actually not really that important at all. It's just a little detail. I'm a little confused why you seem to have such a strong visceral reaction to it, as if you're grasping for straws to come up with reasons why this show is either bad or anti-white male or whatever you think.
Yeah, so Casa over here, he's talking to a guy to try to make an alibi to explain why he killed a couple of people. And that really seems to be the big point of this series, is we're going to try to get this guy on some murder charges.
Yeah, well, the cops want to find out who committed the killings, because they don't know the context of the killings, like Andor does. And he's trying to get his alibi and everything together so he doesn't go to space jail. And ultimately, this acts as a sort of inciting incident that thrusts Andor into the plot of this larger story involving other characters. I think it's really well done. Diego Luna plays Andor, and he does an excellent job portraying this frenetic sort of nervousness that Andor has to the potential of being caught. It seems small stakes in the scope of Star Wars, but that's one of the things I really like about it. It means a lot for Andor to not get caught for something that ultimately isn't his fault. From the very get-go, you get the sense that the stakes are very high for Andor.
It's weird to think that that's even brought up. There's really no investigations in Star Wars. Death just kind of happens in the big scheme of things. It wouldn't even matter. It never comes up.
Wait, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, this is a really baffling statement. Do you think they don't, do you think there are no, security forces or police officers? Do you think there's no law and order in Star Wars? Do you think if you go to a planet, you can just kill someone and get away with it because no one cares about murder? Don't you think it's interesting that we're getting a look into how law and order is maintained in places on the Star Wars universe? Don't you think that's interesting? I mean, just because something hasn't been portrayed to this detail before in a franchise or in a world, that doesn't mean they can't do it. It would be insanely limiting if everyone had the same attitude towards everything else. In fact, I think that the daily lives of people in these universes is often among the most interesting parts. What does happen in the Star Wars world if there's a pair of killings in an alleyway and people want to figure out who did it? How do they find out who the perpetrator is? What clues do they collect? What's the little internal bureaucracy of the local peacekeeping forces and the Empire above them? Exploring these elements of the Star Wars world makes the Star Wars world seem more real and believable.
The termite moments of interworld policing have always just been bounty hunter.
Wait, what? You think if there's a problem, people just call bounty hunters? That's profoundly stupid. First off, Mandalorian is garbage. It's hot shit. It doesn't do anything for world building other than extreme damage. Do you really think that there's no police in the Star Wars world? All these planets and civilizations and societies? You think there's no police? There's no detectives? You think there's no crime and law enforcement? If the only... Maybe this goes to show how fucked the world building of Star Wars has become and how hyper-focused it is on these stupid plots involving Jedi and Skywalkers and massive, insane, unfathomable scope battles. Is people, I guess, think that, if there's a murder in Star Wars, it doesn't fucking matter. People just die all the time. No one cares, whatever. Just call a bounty hunter. If that's the way that people think about this world, then the world building has been damaged, maybe irreparably, by the crap Disney's been putting out before.
But no, we have an actual investigation. Oh, look, it's a white guy, and he's going to take it on himself to figure out who killed the two white guys. Oh, of course, yeah.
Wow. Well, first off, don't say that, oh, look, a white guy taking it all on himself, and then use a visual of him working with one of his co-workers, his subordinates, who's a black guy. Probably not a great way to execute your point. The detective character here with the security force, his name is Cyril, and he's a really interesting character if you actually gave a shit to give the show a chance. He's actually one of my favorite characters. He's very concerned with law and order, and he wants to bring to justice the person who, in his mind, murdered his two co-workers while they were out and about. He doesn't want to go with the flow of the system and lie about what happened. He actually is looking to have justice done. We see him go on his journey to obtain that justice throughout the season, and it's really a shame that such an interesting character, I guess to your mind, is just a skin color and a gender. That's really depressing. And I don't even really understand what you're saying. Oh, look, a white guy to find the two white guys who got killed? I guess if they're white, yeah, I guess that's what you're just describing what's happening. You haven't said why it's bad or why we should be worried or concerned about it. You've just described what's happening. You're at that tier 1 level of media analysis where you can sort of correctly kind of identify what it is your eyes and ears see. You can respond to stimulus. Okay, step 1 achieved. Step 2 is starting to use your brain a little bit. I legitimately don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Is it more anti-white male if Cyril catches Andor, or is it less anti-white male if Cyril catches Andor? I don't know.
And now look, Star Wars actually introduces racism to the galaxy.
Star Wars introduced what the fuck are you talking about?
A topic George Lucas never wanted broached in his creation.
Okay, I don't know. Hot take incoming, I guess. I don't give a shit what George Lucas does and doesn't want in Star Wars at this point. The man made the prequels, okay? Let's be frank. He's full of batshit crazy ideas. The man's responsible for Jar Jar. I think it would be kind of absurd if in Star Wars there wasn't racism. And that's not even true when we talk about George Lucas. Didn't Leia call Wookiee like a walking carpet or something like that? Like, oh, we're not... I have a feeling that Princess Leia is never going to get canceled for her biting racial commentary on Chewbacca, all right? I'm certain that it would be bizarre if there was no racism in the Star Wars universe. There's racism in the Star Trek universe, and that is far more idyllic and progressive. Wait, why are we talking about racism? You know what? Fuck. Hot take number 2. Jar Jar made me racist against Gungans. There. And Ewoks. And... No, that's it. We're good.
Oh yeah, they clearly harassed a human with dark features and chose the wrong person to annoy. Why did you have to throw in the dark features part?
Because that's what their description of the person was. That's what describing someone is. You... What are we doing? What's this video?
Because this is a Star Wars program aimed at everybody that is not one of the original white males that made Star Wars popular.
Wait, what do you mean it's aimed at one of the people who wasn't one of the original white males? Why is it... Because there were a lot of white males, I guess relatively, in the original movie, there has to be a whole lot of white males now? Like, we can't have... Like, what? Did you like, shit your pants when you saw Lando? You know Chewbacca's not even human, right?
Case in point, of course, there's going to be a hot Hispanic gal, Latinx, and she's a mechanic, electrician, engineer, because we have to show little girls that they don't have to be ballerinas.
Why would she be a ballerina? Or, look, on Ferrix, everyone works. It's a working class environment where the men do work, the women do work, everyone, works for the most part. She doesn't have a kid she's taking care of. She has developed a skill, probably because in Ferrix at this time, everyone needs to work and support the family or support themselves, and it seems to be like there's a lot of salvaging going on Ferrix, so it makes sense that she would get into that business. If Ferrix was a lot more high class and everyone made more money and her family was wealthy, then yeah, maybe she wouldn't be working on a job at all. Maybe she would just be pursuing some other passion, or she would have a lot more choice and maybe do something that she would rather do. I don't know. Why is it a problem? You just showed in the clips earlier all of the guys who were going to, like, the glove thing, all of those guys, like, was it like all men? Literally every single one was a man, I think? I mean, I'm sorry they showed a woman who is an electrician, I guess.
Andor also has that telltale sign of, we couldn't be bothered to write out more plot, and that is the childhood flashback. Oh look, there's some kind of jungle kid, refugees. They see some ship crash land. I guess we need to go, I don't know, steal everything that's inside.
So I think it's bizarre that you don't think that flashbacks aren't plot. Like the first 7, 9, whatever it is, minutes of the Fellowship of the Ring aren't plot because it's a flashback. And I don't think they were going there to steal everything. I think they were just going to take a look and check it out. I do think that it was a very interesting creative decision to not have subtitles. They speak a language to each other that we can't understand, and we have to go by reactions and expressions and gesticulations to kind of figure out what it is that they are trying to communicate. Which I think is very interesting. In fact, I kind of like it. It gets you to pay attention and really sort of focus on the nonverbal elements of, communication. Or, the inflection of the way that they speak to each other.
Oh look, a white guy survived, we need to kill him. Oh, but it's justified because he shot their leader first. Yeah, because the evil white guy, he didn't even ask questions.
Oh, this hyper focus on race is legitimately bizarre. I mean, he's in this crash, they're carrying some kind of a very deadly toxin that kills everybody else inside, regardless of whether they're white or male, it seems. He wakes up, there's this chick in front of him with a spear. I don't know, I guess he's supposed to guard it at all costs. He shoots her, it's kind of a tragedy. I don't know what I guess it's a little odd that the other people don't call out about her as he's standing up, but, it's not a perfect show. I will say that, my issues with the show are fairly minimal. I think it's a really good show, but I guess I never considered to really start tallying up everyone's race and gender, I guess.
He just saw the brown girl and was like, I need to shoot that.
Well, I don't think that her... I don't think her brownness was really taken into account. It was probably the spear, and he probably had orders to make sure nobody went into the ship or fucked around with the stuff they were transporting, because it seemed to be a very deadly toxin. I don't think we get any real information as to what his orders were or what their mission was, so we can't really say too much. Other than, I guess that guy felt like that was the move to make at the time, and he thought that she was the only one. I'm fairly certain that if the guy knew that he was surrounded by a bunch of people who had darts at the ready, he probably wouldn't have been so aggressive, but he didn't know that.
So self-important white douche who is actually doing the just thing here and investigating a murder.
Wait, that's just your characterization of what Cyril is, self-important white douche. He's not really... He is trying to use all of the abilities that he has at his disposal, all of his methods and his technology and his people to try and solve the murder of 2 of his company's workers. He is trying to bring someone out there to justice for killing people. He's an incredibly easy to understand character in the sense of they don't hide his motivations. They don't hide what he's trying to do. He is trying to do the right thing in his mind, regardless of a system around him that is set up to just sort of let it slide in a way. To not really investigate and look too deep into it. He has a sense of justice that expands further than his position really wants him to explore and seek out. But he has a principled stance on the matter.
He's putting that team together, and they have a suspect in Casa. Something with an old broad and a droid, didn't pay attention.
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe you fucking should have. Maybe you should have paid attention. Maybe before you sat down at your computer and said, you know what, I'm gonna make a video about Andor, the show, and I'm gonna talk about how it's bad and it's anti-white or whatever. Maybe you should have paid attention, like done the least amount of work and paid attention. You didn't have to make a video on this. You chose to do it. You made the conscious decision that this is a thing you're going to talk about. You did all the editing. You did the recording. You got your clips. You got your little avatar there. Nobody, sprung on you at a party and was like, you, hey, there, yeah, you. What do you think about Andor? Quick, tell me, now. Even when myself and Mahler and Fringy and all of us, when we cover bad shows and we make fun of them, we pay attention. It helps to know what you're criticizing so that you can be accurate about it. Even terrible media, we at least pay attention to it.
But you know that the white guy dating the hot Latinx girl is so gonna turn in Casa.
I think that this plot element could be written a bit tighter. My issue isn't necessarily that he turns in Cassian. It's sort of that he explains to her that he did it afterwards. I think he starts to put together a few things and he thinks that Cassian might be the one and he wants to give Cassian up for the crime so that it can be like someone else that she's interested in that's out of the picture. It's fine, but I think it could be really tightened up quite a bit. It's not the strongest plot element of the show. If I was going to redraft it, I would probably change it up a little bit to make that decision of his a bit more strong.
Old dude's character is jealous vibes.
Well, I guess you would find out more about his character if you watched past the first 2 seasons, but he does seem to care about her. And she does seem to care about him, and he's suspicious of Andor, and he doesn't want Andor around his girlfriend. I think a part of it has to do with a bit of insecurity, but I'm not really certain how deep it goes.
And right at the closing of 2nd episode, we're bringing in another white guy to be evil.
Really? Luthen Rail, probably one of the most, I would say maybe the best character in this show, though there's stiff competition. There's a lot of really good characters. I'd say that both Kino Loy and Mon Mothma are probably, along with him, like the triangle of best characters. Luthen is a really interesting character. I think he's one of my favorite in all of Star Wars. The acting is fantastic, his writing is wonderful, and the idea of what his character is and his journey to fight against the Empire and the bad things that he is willing to do in order to see out a greater good occur later on makes him unlike a lot of other people in the franchise. To just write him off as another white guy who's supposed to be evil is insultingly reductive. And it is right at home with the rest of this video, I suppose, isn't it?
And this is the Star Wars series everybody's fawning over right now.
Yeah, it's really good. Maybe if you gave a shit and took off your racism goggles, you might recognize that there's an incredible amount of work here with the characters and the acting and the themes and the plot.
If you have to defend Andor in the comments below, try.
I mean, it's not really difficult. All you really said was a few things that were, like, wrong, or you just pointed out that people had a certain skin color. It's not really all that much of substance here. You didn't, for you said you watched the first 2 episodes. Your video's only, like, 4-something minutes long. You seem to have barely engaged with the plot. What else do you really want us to say, other than you're being a fool?
I will reply to them. I have nothing else to do.
I believe you.
Just try to make it seem like you're not some indoctrinated shill who's running PR interference for Disney.
Right. I'll do my best to not show my indoctrination. Me. The person who's basically made a living shitting all over Disney as a corporation for the last X years. I'll do my best to try and appear as if I'm not just a Disney shill. You bet.
Thank you for watching my son's YouTube station.
Yeah, sure. No problem at all. It was really shit.
It's not for everyone.
Well, it's not for anyone, is it?
But he tries.
Maybe he should try harder.
Maybe if you bought some merch below, he'll eventually get good at the YouTubing.
Maybe if he gets good at the YouTubing, I'll consider getting some merch. Oh, that's it. That's the end. All right. Well, I thought there was more. I guess not. Yeah, that video was really bad. Basically worthless, though I suppose all of us can profit by using this video as a bad example to learn from. Andor is a really good show. I would highly recommend it. I would say fairly safely that it is the best. No, I will assert it. I will assert it as fact. Andor is the best Disney Star Wars content that exists. In fact, I would probably say it's the only good Disney Star Wars content produced. It is probably the highest quality Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back and maybe parts of Return of the Jedi. Remember that episode 6 is a bit of a mixed bag. The discussion and discourse around the concept of wokeness and things of that nature has become really strange and bizarre, and I don't think it's necessarily gone to a very healthy place for either side. What's very important, that no matter where you stand on the woke question or whatever you want to call it, this general topic, it's very important that you don't find yourself sliding into any extremes. Don't use storytelling and narratives and these kinds of shared modern cultural myths to simply be tools to push a progressive agenda. And at the same time, do not use these things as an anchor that holds you in place. Do not fall into being an extremist on either side. Do not focus on race as the lens through which you view media. And do not become too cynical whenever you see something that isn't familiar. I suppose the message here is chill and relax. Ask yourself why the old stories are good. What makes them venerable? What makes them timeless? What made them classics? And also ask yourself what makes so many new things in particular bad. What makes them frail and fragile, and what makes them full of flaws. I highly doubt that race and gender will be the answer to either of those inquiries. I'm getting back into video editing and making stuff and trying to make videos. Hopefully this will be a more regular thing, particularly with Dogbytes. I'm hard at work on a very, very big chunker of a video for the main channel, and when it's out, I think it'll have a lot of staying power and will really last. But I won't tell you what it is. No, not yet. It is a surprise. If you are interested in supporting me, I would appreciate that immensely. It helps out a great deal. There's some links in the description to some places where you can toss some stuff my way. I appreciate everything that you give, no matter how big or small. And, of course, if you didn't know, for whatever reason, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, I have a podcast with my friends Mahler and Fringy. EFAP, Every Frame a Pause. We talk about all kinds of media, video games, TV shows, movies, and we tackle response videos ourselves. Check out the link in the description if you want to head over there. I'd love to see you in the live chat on our podcast days. That would be super cool, super duper cool. Until then, you guys take care, and I will see you later.